So I already did a video like this for Demon Hunter where I basically talked about the good things, the bad things, and what I would like to see changed. And the reason why I went over Demon Hunter is because it's the most played class in the game, highest win rate class in the game. It can do literally everything from silence to control to OTK to aggro. And people it's a pretty polarizing class where people either hate it or love it. So I decided to talk about that. And now I'm going to talk about the other end of the spectrum with perhaps the worst class in the game. One of the, if not the lowest played rate class in the game, but ironically still one of the most hated classes in the game. So let's just dive right in. And I'm basically going to talk about, again, the good, the bad, and what they could do to fix it. So, the good. I think that the silence mechanic was super duper cool. I think that they could have gone a lot of different directions with silence, and I'm basically just talking generally here. Priest is the kind of class that has a lot of potential with a lot of different directions, but Blizzard couldn't choose one direction, and it just kind of sucks now. Does that make sense? Like, they reworked Priest a while back, for those of you who remember, and they took out several of the cards and replaced them in the classic set because they were trying to rework the Priest class. And I feel like they had a good idea in reworking the class because it wasn't that great to play against just in general. But they did that without thinking ahead and trying to be like, okay, what direction do we want to go with Priest now after we do this rework? They were just like, okay, boom, let's rework the class. Okay, now what now? And from that point on, it's felt like it's had no direction, and there are a lot of different archetypes they could have gone with. They could have gone with Dragon, and you could say, but Ecor, there was a Dragon Priest that was pretty meta. The Dragon Priest literally had 5 to 7 dragons. It had Learn Draconic, it had 2 Cabal Spellkins, it had sometimes Twilight Drake, and Murazon. That was the dragon synergy. Like, it wasn't really a dragon-based deck, it was a little bit of dragon sprinkled in to a mostly RNG steel-based priest that was the exact same as some of the other priests. They also, like I said, could have gone with silence. They could have gone with a tempo-based class or deck because they have a ton of different pump spells like the +2/+2, Apotheosis, the +4 or +2/+6, and even Res Priest, which has gotten at least a decent amount of love this expansion. I do respect that, and I think that Res Priest would not have gotten as much hate as it would have if there wasn't Convincing Infiltrator. I feel like Convincing Infiltrator was really just the most polarizing card in Res Priest. I don't think people had a problem with the resurrection itself. It's just the fact that they could res their board and then kill off your board at the same time. I think that was the big issue with Res Priest. So, Convincing Infiltrator is going to cycle out soon, which means that Res Priest, I feel, has the potential to be a lot more balanced in the future, especially if Convincing Infiltrator isn't there. And going back to silence, because I think that's a pretty cool thing, is having a unique, cool keyword specifically for Priest, or like mostly only for Priest, like silence, is cool. Like, think about it. Not including Demon Hunter, because again, Demon Hunter can do literally everything. It's in a tier of its own. You have one unplayable silence card for Druid, one okay silence card for neutral, which I sometimes run one copy of, and then you also have Shaman, that has a decent silence card that I sometimes run one copy of myself, personally, in some sort of, like, spell or control-based Shaman deck, along with Devolving Missiles, which is kind of a silence because you're, like, transforming it. But again, there's not, like, that much silence in the meta, but Priest, as you can see, has a pretty decent amount of it, whether it be silencing your own minions to go for tempo, or silencing your opponent's minions and being some sort of removal. I feel like that could be pretty cool. So with all these cool directions they could have gone with, and again, I like this about Priest. I like the fact that Priest could do so many things. Sorry for the yawn. The problem with Priest is the fact that the direction they chose to go with was RNG-based and steel-based, which are inherently some of the two most toxic things to play against in general. Like, I don't have a problem losing to aggro decks or control or even OTK decks. They're annoying, right? But they're not... But at least you know it's coming. At least you understand what's going on, right? But with Priest, and it's the same problem with Mage as well, actually, a lot of their hand will be randomly generated, and they'll sometimes just kill you with your own cards, which I feel like is just salt on the wound. Like, you're already going to lose, but you're losing because they randomly generated one of your win condition cards and they're winning, which Okay, it's problematic. I hate playing against it. I know a lot of other people hate playing against it, and it's not healthy, I don't think. But let's talk about one more good thing about Priest real quick before I go really just jumping into why I don't like Priest. It's the fact that you have a card, or you have cards that give hand knowledge, like Mind Vision, Psychic Conjurer, Thought Steal, where are you, Madame Lazul, and Mind Render Lucia. Now, these cards are flawed, but I do like the fact that you have a class in Hearthstone that has hand knowledge, because you can use that hand knowledge to make high skill cap plays based on knowledge you have of your opponent's hand. Which I think is cool, and we'll get into that in a second, but I think that the idea of being able to see your opponent's hand is kind of cool. Okay, so the problem basically just lies in the fact that it's tons of RNG and stealing your opponent's stuff, and I just want to say right now, I don't think RNG is inherently bad. I think that having one or two cards like Palm Reading and Renew that, like, serve as some sort of way to help into faster decks as a form of control or healing or just generating a resource can be nice. I actually don't think that it's bad. I think that it's bad when it becomes like half of your hand is randomly generated. Or more than half of your hand is randomly generated or didn't start in your hand, and that's the direction that they chose to kind of go with Priest, or stealing your cards. Another problematic card is Wave of Apathy. This definitely should be a 2-cost card for multiple reasons. So that way you can't generate it off of things like Wandmaker or Cobalt Spellkin, and the fact that it's a little bit harder to pull off the combo that steals minions. But the fact that this is a 1-mana card that reduces a minion's attack to 1, that's literally just basically Humility, but on a board-wide scale. Like, it's just so much better than Humility. It should at least be 1 cost more, or have some sort of downside, you know? But that's more of a specific card I have a problem with, not anything else. It's just I don't like this particular card, and I'd like to see it changed. The last thing I'd like to see changed is the hand interaction mechanic. Like I said, I thought it was cool, but it's problematic in its current state because people hate losing to their own cards. So I feel like a cool solution to that would be, you know how when you draw a card, it's a soul fragment, it shows both players the card, and it's like, boom, here's the card. Now you're going to just put it back in the deck, or it's going to like disappear or whatever, and you're going to heal too. Basically do the same thing with Mind Vision, Psychic Conjurer, and Thought Steal, right? Where basically it shows you a card or two from their hand, and then you get to just like draw a card. And if you want to make Thought Steal better or more viable, because obviously you're not going to draw just 1 card, make it 3 mana. See 2 cards from your opponent's hand, or 2 cards from your opponent's deck, or 1 from each, or whatever, and then draw 2 cards. And it's still 3 mana draw 2. It's a better Arcane Intellect, but it's not like broken. And I feel like you won't randomly generate a ton of stuff, but you'll still get the same hand knowledge as you would in a normal what's it called? Normal deck, right? So I feel like that would help, because if you have card draw as opposed to randomly generating, you could have more combo-based Priest decks because you're more consistently drawing through your hand or through your deck, and overall, I think it would just be a lot healthier in general. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of ways that Priest could have been good. I like the fact that it has some pretty good early game removal with Holy Smite and Penance. I like the fact that it has some cool hand interaction. I like the fact that it has the directions it could have gone with, like tempo, like silence, like res, but I just don't think that they knew what direction they wanted to go with. And I just want to talk about this real quick, just about Shaman, because I think Shaman is like the perfect example of a class that was reworked exceptionally well, and they did it in 2 ways, and this is exactly how Priest should do it. Way number 1, Totem Shaman has been receiving a little bit of love pretty much every expansion for the past 3 or 4 expansions. Just a little bit, like 1 or 2 cards here, 1 or 2 cards there, to the point where now it's actually a viable good deck. The other thing that they did was they wanted to push some sort of aggro weapon-based Shaman. So what did they do? They came out with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 cards that synergize with this, while also having a couple of already existing cards that can make this strategy work. Right? Like, also, pushing for Evolve Shaman, they only really came out with 2 cards, but again, it's one of those things that was slowly built on itself. Whereas if you look at Priest, Like, they pushed silence for like one expansion and then dropped it, right? They pushed res for like one expansion and then for the most part dropped it. They pushed dragon for one expansion and then dropped it. But every single expansion you'll get like 1 or 2 cards that randomly generate things, which isn't really a win condition, man. Oh, it's so annoying. So yeah, overall, generally speaking, I think that Priest has a world of possibilities that I could potentially run with, and I could see being fun to play as and against. The issue is Blizzard chose to go with the one route that's ridiculously toxic, and they keep trying out things for like an expansion and then dropping it. And I feel like that all those things combined and not fully utilizing the fact that Priest basically was a clean slate and you could just start over with Priest. You could take it in any direction they wanted and they just didn't do it. It's a little bit tilting. Like I said, they could run with any of these options. They could just, basically how I would fix it is just give a little bit more support to 1 or 2 of the archetypes that I mentioned, and maybe change some of the steal mechanics so it's no longer steal based, but more just hand knowledge based with a little bit of draw. Not to mention the fact that Wave of Apathy with the Cabal Acolyte, or the Cabal Shadow Priest is just super lame in general, which is very subjective, obviously, but I just feel like getting beaten with your own minions is just so demoralizing to play against. And when I lose against a Priest, sometimes I have to take a break. Sometimes I just get off for the day if I play a really long 20-minute game against a Priest, and it ultimately comes down to them just stealing one of my big cards and then killing it. Like, if they kill my big card, it would not be as tilting as them basically just stealing it. Like, that's, oh, it's so frustrating. But anyway, that's basically it on Priest. Tell me what you guys think about it. If you guys agree with what I was saying, if you guys disagree, if there are things that you think I missed, please let me know. Obviously, this was fairly subjective. I didn't use any statistics on this other than the fact that I showed that Priest was the worst class in the game. I used a little bit more in Demon Hunter, so if I do another discussion like this, if you want me to use more statistics on things like Hearthstone Replay and Vicious Syndicate, you can. Or if you just like me sitting down and discussing a lot of these cards with you, that's totally fine. But yeah, I like these discussion videos. I think it's interesting to talk about this stuff, and I like trying to figure out how to make the game a little bit better in any way I can. And I feel like I've basically beaten the dead horse that is the atrocity of the Hearthstone economy. So I feel like trying to go towards something else, like the meta, is a little bit better. Because I feel like the developers actually still care about the game, as opposed to the marketing team that comes up with the Hearthstone economy. And developers, if they see this, might be like, maybe we will do something like this, because we actually do care about the game a little bit. Whereas the people in marketing are just like, well, this economy makes us the most amount of money, so we really don't care what you guys have to say about it. But that's a whole other rant for another time. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I do enjoy these kind of things. Sorry this outro lasted so long. I hope to see you in the next one, and like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and you want to see more videos like this, along with some pretty cool gameplay at moderately high legend, top 1,000 to 500 pretty much every season. So hope you guys enjoyed. See ya.